Everyone knows the Beatles, the Stones, the Doors, but in the 60s, there was a whole ocean of bands playing in the same clubs, recording in the same studios, and today, nobody remembers their names. And this video is about 7 of them. 7 bands that were important for a few years and disappeared completely. Not because they were bad, but because history is selective. Memory is short, and some stories end before they truly begin. So stay until the end, because at least one of these stories will probably surprise you. In 1965, the Turtles from Los Angeles released It Ain't Me, Babe. Cover of Bob Dylan's song, which reached number 8 on the Billboard charts. 2 years later, in 1967, they recorded Happy Together. One of the most perfect songs of the 60s. The song stayed at number 1 for 3 weeks and sold over 1 million copies. And for a moment, the Turtles became one of the biggest bands in America. But there was a problem. They were too pop, too polished. And when rock started to get heavier in the late 60s, the band seemed out of place. In 1970, the band broke up, and a legal battle began that lasted decades. They could no longer use the name The Turtles. They tried to continue as Flo and Eddie, but never again achieved the same success. Today, they are remembered almost as a curiosity, as proof that a perfect song doesn't guarantee a legacy. Happy Together still plays in commercials, and almost nobody knows that behind that melody lies a story of legal disputes, internal fights, and a band that couldn't even use its own name. In 1965, John Sebastian formed the Lovin' Spoonful in Greenwich Village, New York. They created a unique sound that blended folk, blues, and pop. Between 1965 and 1966, they amassed an impressive string of hits. Do You Believe in Magic? Summer in the City. Number 1 on Billboard. For a moment, they seemed unstoppable. But in 1967, Zal Yanofsky, guitarist and soul of the band, was arrested for drug possession. After cooperating with the police, the Greenwich Village scene turned its back on him and the band. Yanofsky left in 1967, and without him, the Lovin' Spoonful was never the same. In 1968, the band broke up. John Sebastian pursued a solo career, and years later appeared alone on the Woodstock stage. Meanwhile, the Lovin' Spoonful becomes a footnote in rock history, an example of how a scandal and cultural shifts destroyed one of the greatest bands of the 60s before its time. The Association from Los Angeles releases Along Comes Mary. Then comes Cherish, number 1 on Billboard. Windy, another number 1. And Windy has stormy eyes. And Never My Love. For 2 years, they dominate sunshine pop, rock with complex, almost Baroque vocal harmonies. In 1967, they open the Monterey Pop Festival and receive a standing ovation. But perfectionism begins to take its toll. While rock becomes more raw, more direct, the association seems excessive. In 1971, bassist Brian Cole dies of an overdose, and the band never fully recovers. They attempt reunions, but never return to the top. Today, they are remembered by sunshine pop fans and vinyl collectors, and Cherish still plays on oldies radio stations, while almost no one knows that it was a 6-person band obsessed with sonic perfection. Just the right sound that could make you hear. In 1964, the Beau Brummels from the Bay Area released Laugh Laugh. Produced produced by Sylvester Stewart, who would later become Sly Stone. The song reached number 15 on the Billboard charts, and for a moment, they seemed destined for greatness. They emerged before the psychedelic explosion, and it was one of the first sounds from California before the hippie scene took over. But they weren't part of the San Francisco core. They were from San Mateo, and when the new scene exploded, they seemed out of place. In 1966, they changed direction and moved closer to country rock. They released Triangle and then Bradley's Barn, albums now cult classics, but ignored at the time. In 1969, the band broke up. Today, they are remembered by dedicated fans and by those who study the origins of country rock. While Laugh Laugh still plays on the radio, and almost no one knows that they helped pave the way for the California sound before psychedelia. Dick Taylor, former bassist of the Rolling Stones, forms The Pretty Things in London. They are more raw, more savage than the Stones. Between 1964 and 1966, they released singles that should have been hits, such as Rosalind and Don't Bring Me Down. In 1968, they released S.F. Sorrow, one of the first rock operas in history, predating The Who's Tommy. Today, it's considered a masterpiece, but at the time, it practically didn't sell. The Pretty Things became the band that critics loved and the public ignored. In the 70s, they tried to embrace punk, but they already seemed out of touch. In 1978, they broke up. Today, they are remembered by garage rock fans, by collectors of rare records. While S.F. Sorrow continues to be cited in history books as an unjustly forgotten work by a band that was always in the right place at the wrong time. In 1963, the Yardbirds formed in London, a band that would launch three of the greatest guitarists in history: Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page. Between 1964 and 1966, the hits came. For Your Love, Heart Full of Soul, Shapes of Things. In 1965, Clapton left, uncomfortable with the band's more pop-oriented direction. Jeff Beck joined, more experimental and unpredictable. In 1966, Jimmy Page arrived, first as bassist and then took over the guitar. For a brief moment, two guitarists on stage, Beck and Page. But Beck left at the end of 1966 and Page continued alone. In 1968, the band broke up and Jimmy Page formed Led Zeppelin. The Yardbirds are remembered as the band that launched three legends, but never managed to become legends themselves. Today, they are celebrated by blues rock fans and by those who study the evolution of the electric guitar. While For Your Love still plays on the radio, and almost no one realizes that the story of three of the greatest guitarists of all time begins there. In 1964, the Moody Blues emerged in Birmingham, England. In 1965 came Go Now, #1 in the UK and top 10 in the US. They seemed destined for greatness. But in 1966, everything changed. Denny Lane left, Justin Hayward joined, and the band abandoned R&B to explore symphonic rock and art rock. In 1967, Days of Future Past rock mixed with orchestra. The critics embraced it, and the public gradually understood. Between 1967 and 1972, they released a sequence of albums that are now classics: In Search of the Lost Chord, On the Threshold of a Dream, A Question of Balance. They never repeated the initial impact of Go Now, but found lasting success with Nights in White Satin.
Just what you want to be.
In 1974, Mike Pinder left, and the dynamic changed forever. The band continues, for decades, but revisiting its own legacy. And today, many people forget that before progressive rock, the Moody Blues started as an R&B band that helped redefine the sound of rock with an orchestra.
Letters are written.
7 bands, 7 stories of success and failure, of invention and oblivion. And the question that remains is simple. Why do we remember some and forget others? Why are the Beatles eternal and the Turtles become a footnote? Perhaps there is no answer. Perhaps it's just luck, timing, or the very cruelty of history. But these bands existed. They made good music, and they deserved to be remembered. If this video made you discover something new, if it made you want to listen to any of these albums, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment on which of these stories impacted you the most. Because the next story doesn't end here. It continues in another decade with other forgotten bands. And you probably never heard what happened in the 70s.